Hello everyone, continuing on lines with the previous video from the RCB Science Club based on a quick fact check regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, here's another video from our side. Here we have a group of students who are currently preparing for a poster presentation and they happen to talk about the different vaccines which are currently effective against the COVID-19 virus and how they work against it.
Oh, have you started preparing posters on vaccine for the competition?
Yes, I have.
Interesting. Did you watch the video I sent you on COVID-19?
Yeah, I did see that video, but it didn't mention a lot about vaccines.
Do not worry, vaccines are basically preparations which can be used for triggering the immune response against a disease. There are various forms by which a vaccine can be administered. You can remember the example of oral polio vaccine. It is administered through mouth, and in the case of recent COVID-19 pandemic, Covaxin or Covishield, it was administered through needle injections. And there are other routes like it can be administered through nasal routes also.
Yeah, right. There are different types of vaccines. Firstly, we have inactivated vaccine, where the whole viral particle is used that has been killed or has been altered in such a way to stop its propagation inside the host. The vaccine named Covaxin by Bharat Biotech is one of the example of inactivated viral vaccine.
We do also have the nucleic acid based vaccines, which usually contain the genetic material of the said pathogen, in this case the coronavirus, against which the body's immunity is raised. For example, the Comirnaty by Pfizer BioNTech or Moderna is an mRNA vaccine.
Yes, even Zycov-D, which is world's first plasmid DNA vaccine, it has been produced indigenously in India.
Wait, isn't there a protein subunit vaccine too? What is that?
Protein subunit vaccines include a part or protein of the coronavirus instead of the entire germ. You might have heard the Covovax by Serum Institute of India and the Corbevax by Biological E Limited. These are some of the examples of protein subunit vaccines.
Also, the vector-based vaccines, where the genetic material of the SARS-CoV virus is packed into the shell of another but harmless virus. Most of you must have heard about Covishield, that is manufactured by Serum Institute of India. That is an example of this vector-based vaccines.
We must not forget about live attenuated vaccines. These are weakened whole viruses and these are used for triggering the immune response. So yeah, these are very important type.
Yeah, I heard about the Covivac by Codagenics, which is an example of live attenuated viral vaccine.
You guys seem to know a lot about vaccines, but how does it actually work?
So, vaccines work by teaching your body to recognize the dangerous pathogen, so that when your body is exposed to the pathogen in the future, it is ready to fight it.
Vaccines actually introduce small parts of the germ which are maybe weakened or maybe dead, and they actually trigger the body's natural immune response without causing much illness.
What happens after immune system is triggered?
So what usually happens is that in response to a particular vaccine antigen, the T and B lymphocytes are activated, so that when we are infected by the germ at a later time, the body's immunity safeguards us against such deadly pathogens. So you see, vaccine is perhaps the safest option for developing one's immunity.
Interesting. So what exactly do these B and T cells do?
B cells produce a type of protein known as antibodies which tag the infected cells or antigens you can say, and they call on other immune cells like T helper cells and cytotoxic T cells which come and attack those infected cells and dispose them of our body so that the infection cannot spread.
I actually took my vaccine dose a few months ago. So does it still work?
Yes, after taking the vaccine shot, your body starts producing these memory B cells, which keeps on circulating in your body, making it easier for your body to fight off the virus if you are ever exposed to it. Also, there will be circulating antibodies in your blood, which are like the immune system's bullet against the virus.
So, many available vaccines that we're seeing nowadays have varied number of doses. What determines this frequency? So, the frequency of any vaccine depends on multiple factors. Firstly, it depends upon the type of vaccine, the burden of the disease in the community, and also on the antibody titers. So, the vaccines that has been prepared with live or vegan viruses have the ability to produce inside the host. So thus they produce a stronger immune response and the lesser number of doses have been required in this case. But the vaccines that has been prepared using the protein or any toxin In this case, we need multiple doses to generate a stronger immune response. And the doses after the primary dose is referred to as booster dose.
You recently mentioned about booster doses. There is a lot of hype about booster doses in media and social media. And what is it really about?
The booster shot is actually an extra vaccine dose that is administered to enhance one's immunity by increasing the antibody titers. It is usually taken after the primary dose and often provides protection against the new variants of concern that are coming up.
Now that I realize the importance of vaccines, I'm curious how they are produced on the large scale.
Sure, as you know, vaccines contain these tiny fragments of the disease-causing pathogen, so which are like the blueprints for making these organisms. So these vaccines are grown in cells which act like mini factories for the production of these tiny fragments, and these cells are grown in large containers which are called as bioreactors, and once the right concentration of cells has been achieved, there will be a substance which will be used to break open these cells, and the drug substance that is then released is purified and packaged into the multi-dose vials.
Interesting. Not only the vaccine production is important, but its transport and storage also plays a very important role, as vaccine for their storage and transport require low temperature conditions, which is also termed as cold chain transport. Also, despite of having so many vaccines, we continuously hear about the emergence of new variants of coronavirus, and such variants are also known as variants of concern.
Now coming over to variants, how are they actually formed?
So viruses do not have an error-free mode of replication like our cells do, and because of this there are many changes in the genetic sequence which are called mutations, and these replicons of viruses carry these mutations, and hence these mutations makes new variants. Interestingly, the SARS-CoV-2 is an RNA virus, and hence there are more chances of variations in the genetic sequence, and hence we can see a lot of variants occurring.
But how do these mutations affect the frequency of a particular variant in the population?
The fate of these newly arising mutations basically depends upon the natural selection. The more a virus that is containing beneficial mutations is allowed to replicate unchecked in the population, the more it will accumulate inside the population and will be more successful than the original virus.
Is there any possibility that a zoonotic virus can create a fatal variant?
Yes. So when the variants transmit from one species to the other, this cross-species transmission allows the virus to adapt to different kinds of hosts, and this increases their power to be more fatal. Also, depending upon the time of occurrence, the region of occurrence, the environmental factor, new pathogenic strains can develop, as we're seeing all around the world, and this has proven to be very harmful to the population.
Despite the students having gained inputs and having collected verified information on the different types of COVID-19 vaccines, there were still a few questions that they didn't happen to find concrete answers to. Hence, they approached our director and eminent virologist, Professor Dr. Sudhanshu Rathi, to address the unanswered questions.
Sir, in your opinion, how many more waves can we expect in the course of this pandemic?
This is a difficult question to answer, but as of now it doesn't look likely that there is going to be any major wave of corona epidemic now, because majority of our population is vaccinated or almost fully vaccinated, and there is sufficient level of immunity in the population. So it's unlikely that we will see another wave for another 6 months to 12 months at least.
So the vaccines which are currently in use, to what extent they will be effective against the emerging variants?
They will have effectiveness against new variants to a varying degree. That has been seen in the past. When new variants emerged, the vaccine was still effective, although there was some compromise in their efficiency. So I don't think they are going to be total failure. They would still be effective, but depending upon what kind of variations are going to emerge, their efficacy may vary.
So, sir, how do you think India will cope up to this problem?
Well, India has done very well in terms of addressing issues related to COVID-19 pandemic, and we are increasingly more prepared now. We have population which is very significantly vaccinated now. We have laboratories, we have diagnostic facilities which are fully geared up. Even the clinical facilities, the hospital facilities, there has been a significant improvement. So I think we are fully prepared and we should be able to handle any new wave that might come, although it is unlikely.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful inputs. So how do you see the future of vaccine productions in India?
India has been a leader in manufacturing of vaccines, and we have again shown to the world that we can do it better and better. India actually produced 4 corona vaccines which were licensed, and there are not very many countries who reached that status. So India is fully equipped to manufacture vaccines at a cost-effective rate, which can be made available to population from lower middle income countries.
I hope this informational video on the different types of COVID-19 vaccines has been able to clear up some of the doubts or misinformation regarding the vaccines. On the behalf of the RCB Science Club, I, Anushka, would like to thank all of you for joining us today.